Welcome back. Ease of access to St. Lucia from one of its key source markets, the United Kingdom, has been greatly enhanced. Following high-level discussions with government and tourism officials, premium carrier British Airways on Thursday, the 22nd of August, broke news of the introduction of 2 additional direct flights per week to St. Lucia. This is good news for the destination, given concern about the planned pullout of Virgin Atlantic. Taking effect next summer, the no-tag flights from British Airways will commence on the 4th of July 2020 and will run through August 29, 2020. The flight offers 3 classes of service and will add an average of 200 additional seats weekly to facilitate travel to the island. Tourism Minister Dominic Fede said the bold decision by British Airways, with whom St. Lucia has had a long-standing, mutually beneficial relationship, certainly helps in filling the void left by Virgin Atlantic and their proposed pullout come next year. This new agreement means that with more than 600 additional seats weekly, St. Lucia will now benefit from a net gain during July and August of more than 200 seats. Fede says together with the additional flights, several other marketing initiatives are being explored as a means of imbuing added life into the British market. In responding to the news of the additional flights, Prime Minister Alan Shastney said he is elated with this latest development and the good fortune it spells for continued efforts at growing visitor arrivals from the UK market. The additional flights will bring British Airways' scheduled direct service from London to St. Lucia up from 7 to 9 flights weekly. Public sector unions have strongly noted their displeasure that government did not grant a request for a tax waiver on retroactive pay to public servants. They argued that the tax waiver for about 9,000 public servants would amount to less than $1 million. And given that government grants tax waivers to foreign companies that amount to millions each year, it should have granted public servants a tax waiver on the back pay. Let's hear your thoughts on this matter.
I think that, tax is tax. We can't run away from taxes. When you give foreign investors, the incentives that you give them is to create employment, which in turn leads to the paying of taxes. When you give St. Lucians a raise, you can't run away from taxes because taxes is what that causes us to pay our bills at the end of the day. And that's what government depend on to pay whatever they're paying. So I don't know how well or how bad it affects the common person. But what I think is that you can't run away from taxes.
So on the issue of taxing back pay and so on for the civil servants, that the TUF was making the point at the negotiations with the government. Everything have to have good faith, and the government stands for the people, and it should be a government for the people and by the people. And everybody's eyes are open and people seeing and hearing so many incentives being given to businesses, so many business persons coming here to invest, and the government is actually giving them money, from the NIC, wavering and actually foregoing 24 million for businesses over there, giving other businesses monies over there to open plant, pay their salaries of their workers. So, people are not stupid in this time. Everybody's eyes are open. And I think it was in a bad taste and it was not in good faith at all for the government to actually tax the back pay for the civil servants. Because while you may have civil servants that people may consider lazy and not doing their job, etc., etc., I believe the vast majority of civil servants are doing their jobs. Police, teachers, you always find a few when they do certain things, it makes the whole lot looks bad. But at the end of the day, I believe there is more good than evil. When the Almighty created the earth, everything was good, and the evil that happens, it is blown out of proportion sometimes so much, and it is spoken about so much and given such prominence and such attention, it would seem like there is no good. But there is a lot of good in the society, and the government should act in good faith and, ensure that they pay the civil servants their back pay and make it tax-free, act in good faith, because civil servants, go sometimes beyond the call of duty to do things, especially teachers. Teachers put their own money sometimes to buy material, to instruct their classes and so on and so forth. So in acting in good faith, I think the government should go down that road and make the back pay tax-free, man. Let's have some good faith, government.
Comment les investors là qui viennent cette lycée là? C'est eux qui ont tout profit là, pas nous, because when tu là NIS là, on va bon, on va prendre investor pour investir. Et quand tu là ça c'est mon qui a pension, ça prend tu là ça prend housing scheme, et ben chez moi tu caille chaque semaine, et dit donc là en les NIS tous les mois.
Bon bac payer. Oui.
Je sais pas si vous taxe là. Tu quand on va prendre, il pas assez, et bien il faut qu'on prendre là encore, ça pas bon, ça pas fait, bon Dieu pas dit ça. On t'a montré au même dit dans là, on prend taxe en l'air, on prend l'air.
Moi style cadeau actuellement si gouvernement si loi dit it is illegal pour tax back payer, ma supporter au tax li. Mais depuis pas illégal ou ça tax back payer, depuis le gouvernement pas fait rien qui out of the way, gouvernement pas casser loi, moi pas supporter le gouvernement depuis pas casser loi. Mais si on casse loi, moi pas supporter yo.
I say everything is under law, so what under law, leave it under law. So if they have to be taxed, let them be taxed. If not, I don't see what reason they should say not to tax them. Like the man say, everything being taxed. Not because they're civil servants that they're not supposed to be taxed.
I feel the government should be a little sympathetic to the civil servants. They haven't waited so long. They could have let them have it tax-free. For example, they let a big hotel company, they gave them a tax break of 21 million or whatever it is. And the little tax break for the civil servants, it would help them, but that wouldn't cost government much more. So they should have allowed them the back pay tax break.
Another commission is set to be formed to remedy the minimum wage issue. Senator Gideon Ferdinand says the nation's history with commissions is one which has left a sour taste in his mouth. He says, however, he awaits the final outcome of the established minimum wage.
Many have weighed in on the island not having an established minimum wage in the year 2019. The issue as it stands has left many divided whether the island should have a fixed minimum wage or whether a minimum wage should be established within each sector of society. Recent remarks made by Labour Minister Stephenson King indicates a formation of a new commission will soon come about to deal with the long overdue matter. However, Senator Gideon Ferdinand says he is wary of a formation of yet another commission.
In theory, it sounds good. That's an issue that has to be addressed. But the formation of commissions for the last 3 years, for me, has been a very ticklish issue from the public. The Public Service Commission, the Teaching Service Commission, those who deal with our integrity, the Integrity Commission, all of them have been very shady. So this is one of those. I hope that this time they get it right.
Meanwhile, Senator Joachim Henry gave his thoughts on the minimum wage issue as well, saying each and every individual deserves an equal standard.
I think one needs to establish a minimum wage, irrespective of sector, because there is a minimum amount of food that each one of us, irrespective of whether you're a lawyer, whether you're working, whether you're a garbage collector, whether you're a police officer, we all require a certain amount of food for us to live every day. We need to consume a certain amount of water. That basket of food that you need to survive daily should influence what the minimum wage is, and everybody should subscribe. We all pay for a pound of flour at the same price. We all buy flour, sugar, and what have you. So that you take into consideration a basic basket of food that everybody needs to survive, and you establish other forms of consumables and how we live our life, and you establish a minimum wage based on that. I do not believe there should be one for a politician and another for a poor person.
Minimum wage is the lowest payment that employers can legally pay workers. Most countries introduced minimum wage legislation in the 20th century. However, in the 21st century, St. Lucia has yet to establish a minimum wage. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Minister for National Security Herman Gill Francis is calling out the press for what he says has been irresponsible news reporting. This coming on the heels of Prime Minister Alan Shasney's refusal to answer one journalist who posed a question to him outside the House of Assembly on Tuesday. Solange Alfred tells us more.
So I'm getting a little really annoyed with the press because some of the things that I hear really makes me mad. And I haven't called Andre, but I think one of these days I'll call Andre and show what makes me mad.
That was Senator Herman Gill Francis. He says his angst with the media stems from a lack of investigative journalism before news reports are aired. The minister sought to give an example of one such incident which he says rubbed him the wrong way, when one local media house aired a story which he says was not factual. In the reporting, Francis says the local media house alluded to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis providing a gun for cash amnesty, which he says is not the case.
That is not so, and whether the government is going to be looking at it that way, we cannot be giving this sort of impressions. Okay, we got to get the story correct and report accordingly. Okay, now people are believing that St. Kitts gave amnesty and they paid for the guns and so on. This is not so. It is the gang leaders and the persons themselves came, they have their peace pack, and they're the ones who brought in the firearms. And I'm happy that they did that because these are 40 firearms less for St. Kitts, where we knew things were not too good. So I'm happy about that. If our persons here decide, well, on their own they want to bring in the firearms to the police, I would be elated. But we are not in the process of giving firearms for money. That is not going to happen.
Following this, reporters pressed Francis on the feud between himself and veteran journalist Earl Bousquet. In a previous airing of the Hot 7 Nightly News, Bousquet had issued an apology to the minister for an article written in the August 8th issue of the Voice newspaper. Francis says the matter between himself and Bousquet is water under the bridge.
Earl and myself are very good friends. Like I said, I don't keep anything about anybody. I say what I had to say, and at the end of the day, I go back to things. Earl has been a long-time friend, and I felt that Earl misquoted me. I called him, and I told him what... In fact, I met him outside my office, and we had a few choice words. I'm surprised that he actually wrote the word that I used to him. But Earl and myself are good. I have no problems. I refuse to make enemies for politics.
Meanwhile, the Minister for National Security would not disclose whether or not he was briefed on a recent kidnapping, with reports alleging the involvement of a minister in government. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Tennyson Glasgow is up next with all the sporting action.